Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365, and it has been 24 hours since Disney Plus has launched, so here's my review and progress of how the newest streaming service is shaping up. Channel, please hit the like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I put out videos every single day. You can also find me over Twitter and Instagram at MovieGuy365, as well as over at the Disney Magic Hour podcast. I will put a link for that in the description. All right, so it has been a little over a day since Disney Plus has launched. I keep wanting to say D23, I don't know why. But Disney Plus has launched, and I personally have been looking forward to this one for quite a bit. I'm a big Disney fan, and everything under their umbrella, I'm a huge fan of all of it. And just the amount of promises they made and that kind of thing, I was really hoping that we were going to get something great out of the gate. Now, I will say I'm paid up. I utilize the D23 discount offer that they did, so I'm paid up for 3 years on this service. That just, it seemed like an incredible deal at the time. Just pay a little bit more up front and you get it relatively cheaper every single month. Now, I'm going to talk about everything I liked and disliked and what I feel they can improve upon. But just out of the gate, yeah, there were issues, coming out early in the morning yesterday. And I think everybody had some kind of problem. I know all across the regions, people were having issues. And eventually those did get sorted out throughout the day. The couple ones I had were things like, at least on my Apple TV, I was able to log in, no problem whatsoever. But then it kind of just crashed a little bit. And then my other devices also experienced login issues. But there were just overall, I expected this kind of thing. It wasn't anything to panic about, and knew there would be a semi-bumpy rollout. But I think by the mid-afternoon, at least here on the East Coast, most of those problems seem to go away. I know a friend of mine was having problems where couldn't play the play button on a couple movies, and other kind of issues where, audio wasn't coming through at some point. So those did get sorted out, and I actually want to talk about the audio issue because it did happen to me, but that was just device-specific issue. So let's dive into Disney Plus and see what I thought. Off the bat, I think their user interface is absolutely great. I was really worried they were going to do kind of like a Hulu thing. Since Disney has primary shares in Hulu, I was kind of afraid because I am not the biggest fan of the Hulu interface. Just something about it just doesn't work for me. But overall, I think it works pretty nicely. Actually, as soon as you log in and get all that out of the way, you have a nice little graphic, which I kind of dig, by the way. And it's they got like a recommended thing at top, and then of course the subcategories right below it. So there's like a Pixar, National Geographic, Marvel, Disney, and Star Wars. And I think that's a nice feature. It's like you want to go to one section, you just click the other one of the buttons that you want, and then you can exit out. Now, I will say that the user interface isn't perfect, but it's definitely a good start. It's a very nice launch thing. There are things, they kind of like, Disney classic movies, they got like the kind of the Netflix model where it's scrolled across the bottom, so you can kind of scroll and find what you want. But also, your search button is going to be your greatest ally here. You definitely don't expect to see everything listed on the front page. Even when you jump into certain subcategories, you may have to do a generic search function if you're not sure where it exactly begins or where it belongs, rather. So yeah, I like the interface. Definitely little improvements could be made here and there, but I think overall it's a very pleasing just look to the interface. I really dig that a lot. The launch catalog is staggering. It is beautiful how much is there on the first day. And I know there's online being what it is. There's a lot of people, why isn't this there? Why isn't that there? Blah, blah, blah. You got to understand something. They're not going to put everything they own on one day, because then what's going to appear next month? What's going to keep people coming back besides the new content? We all want to enjoy episodes of Darkwing Duck, and we all want to enjoy episodes of Aladdin and the animated series. Darkwing Duck is there, Aladdin isn't. It will be there eventually. It's just something that they have to kind of just roll out eventually. It's going to come. Now, there's also a lot of stuff like the Marvel movies, for instance, and there are other films that are currently being held hostage, more or less, by contracts. So movies like over at Netflix and Amazon Prime that are exclusives for just a time period, they do actually have a couple dates. This will be available this day. Like The Last Jedi, I believe, will be available December 26th of this year. So they have a little disclaimer. Some are a little further out, like Christopher Robin, for instance, has a little disclaimer. It'll be out in August next year. So at least they kind of tell you when things are coming. But for the most part, you know, you're just, if it's not there on release day, it will be eventually. I know friends were looking for very obscure kind of Disney live action movies from the 60s, 70s, and so forth. And those are, some of those are there, some of those aren't. It will happen. It's just, you got to be patient. But there, for what we get out of launch, it's just amazingly cool how much is there. It's a lot to take in, honestly. Now I want to talk about a thing that I did a video about, their support of HDR, Dolby Vision, and Dolby Atmos. Yes, they are completely delivering on that promise. There's no upcharge or anything to that. If you have the equipment to support it, it will appear in that format. Now I'm using the Apple TV 4K for my review purposes and casual watching. And once again, the HDR Dolby Vision looks really, really good. Now I will say that comparatively to other streaming services, I will say it's a bit, I would say it's a little bit better than Netflix, maybe on par, but I think Apple TV has a stronger bitrate, and naturally their Dolby Vision looks a lot better than even Disney Plus or Netflix. So I think Apple TV, despite the very limited content that they do have currently, has a better 4K HDR Dolby Vision resolution. But that's not to say that we don't get good stuff here over on Disney Plus. Now, what a big surprise to everybody. We kind of knew the Marvel movies and a lot of the Disney stuff was going to be in 4K, but we didn't know was the original Star Wars, all the Star Wars movies up until now are 4K Dolby Vision with the Atmos. That's a cool surprise. It's really welcome. I was able to demo every single movie in this. It looks great, and it makes me really thirsty for the 4K physical releases on disc, because that's naturally going to look a little bit better, just because the bit rate's going to be so much higher on physical media. But what we get here, it looks great. I really had a chance to just dive in a bit to all these movies. That was a really welcome surprise that we got these right out of the gate. Movies like Avatar, unfortunately, do not show in 4K. That's just a Cameron thing. He's got a, he's very protective of his material, so I think eventually that's going to get the 4K treatment. But we get a lot here in that format, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit being an example. That's the one that made me really instantly excited. So I watched about 20 minutes of that. Very good looking. Obviously, it's absolutely better looking than what we get on the physical Blu Ray. But once again, when we get physical disc, that's probably going to win everything. But I think for what Disney Plus starts with and give us this quality out of the gate, it makes me very excited what we're getting in the future. I think it really looks good. It sounds good. Atmos sounded pretty good to me. Once again utilizing Apple TV through the rear receiver. It's just an overall great package. So if you're a home theater buff like me, you have a lot to enjoy here with Disney Plus. Just a couple touch on the issues again that are happening. Just a few little things as I mentioned. Just initial login issues. No real problems to speak of. I was having a problem saving stuff to my my watch list, but that did get resolved. So once again, I think just the overall issues were day one stuff. So nothing to really get worried about by the time this video comes out. Pretty much everything should be ironed out. There should be very little problems here and there. Well, a couple things that need to be addressed, and this isn't so much an issue as they'll fix it. I think it's going to be a fix. So a lot of their programming that they did launch was shot originally in an aspect ratio of 4:3. So basically, when people owned TVs in the past, it was very square kind of image. So a lot of these things were filmed square, so you had the black bars on both sides when you have a widescreen TV. Well, they cropped a lot of that material, so a lot of the shows that were not widescreen filmed looked very stretched, and the biggest example of this was The Simpsons. Simpsons absolutely needs to be fixed. When FX had Simpsons World on their app, that was also a problem there, but they did eventually fix it, and it was rather sooner rather than later. So I expect Disney to kind of get the pushback and feedback on this, and it's just not relegated to The Simpsons, other programming as well. As I said, some of their older cartoons are cropped. No, they need to fix that. Not everything needs to fill the screen. I think people can deal with the square image. We've dealt with it for years. I grew up with it. It's just a thing. And it also obscures a lot of the kind of jokes, going back to The Simpsons again. So there's a couple jokes where when they're cropped, you don't see it, and that's kind of unfortunate. I think they will fix it. I think this is just a thing that right out the gate they didn't know about, or this isn't going to be on their to-do list. So I think that's going to eventually get addressed. And I see a lot of sites kind of bringing this up. So I think the attention will be brought to it, and hopefully it'll be rectified. Let's see, a couple things it does need. I think it needs like kind of a start over feature, like a resume kind of function. So I was watching The Mandalorian and I got to the end credits, and then of course there's another like minute and a half of just like, you know, alternate language contributions and that sort of thing. But it kind of just trails off. So naturally if you don't sit through the credits and you exit out, then you're gonna have to like do a manual resume. That's kind of annoying. So if you want to go back to it, like I did last night, go back to it. I did a live stream with the Disney Magic Hour podcast, and as soon as we all sync up, I went to go press it, and it started me back at the end credits. So that's that needs to be addressed. I think that needs to be fixed. We need to be able the function to, you know, start over, resume. That's a basic thing. I think that will get addressed. But overall, you know, there's not too much wrong with it. So yeah, overall, I'm digging Disney Plus. I think it's a really good rollout. I think it's the best that we've had from a streaming service. I pretty much subscribe to most streaming services, things like Criterion and Apple TV. And while Apple TV has, I feel, better overall image, their content is just lacking. It is. They don't have the properties or anything to really back up. They have a couple shows, a couple mini movies, that type of thing. But overall, that's kind of like, I think the bitrate is a lot better on that one, but Disney Plus still looks fantastic. And I think honestly, you know, if you're kind of, you know, asking me between Netflix and Disney Plus, for me personally, the content I enjoy the most is going to be over there. I'm still subscribed to Netflix, and I think they're great, and I think what they do is like they have some good content, but I'm excited about this one. I think Disney Plus is fantastic. I really enjoy it. And you know, I think you really should, if you haven't yet, and you're a Disney fan or Marvel or whatever, give this a shot. I think it looks great. It's an overall fantastic thing. They have a lot of exclusives. I haven't even touched on half of what's available, but I'm excited to start reviewing all this. And hey, you know what? I think we're off to a good start. So I absolutely recommend Disney Plus. And for the first 24 hours, it's a really good launch. And I'm going to come back to this in about 6 months, a year, and really talk about the changes that have been made. So stay tuned for that, and please subscribe to the channel. So let me know in the comments below what you think of Disney Plus. What are your thoughts? What are you loving? What are you not loving so much? Let's talk about it in the comments section below. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I put out videos every single day. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.